Hello, this is Chem 102 Analysis of Vinegar Lab. We've got 3 flasks here to hold hydrochloric acid in the first step of the experiment. And so I'm going to pipette with this volumetric pipette. I'm going to move 15 milliliters of this hydrochloric acid solution. It is 0.1043 molar. I'm going to move 15 milliliters into each of these 3 containers. So let me first, because I haven't used this pipette yet today, I'm going to rinse it out a little bit. I'm going to pull up a little bit of liquid, and then I'm going to just slosh it around in there a little, and then put it into a waste container. I'm going to do that once more. Let it drain out. And then let me tell you a little bit more about how this gets done. I have a rubber bulb here, and I'm going to depress it, and then when I hold it tight against the top of the pipette, it creates suction and pulls liquid up. And you can see liquid, or you might not be able to see, but liquid is filling this up. And I'm going to fill it up above a line on the pipette, which is the full line. So I'm going to overfill it. And there's the fill line. I'm going above it. Now I'm going to take the bulb off and put my finger over the top, like that. Now I have too much liquid in here right now. So I'm going to bring it up to eye level and watch the line, the meniscus, go down until the bottom of the meniscus touches the fill line on the pipette. So I have to do this like this. And then I'm going to drain it into one of the flasks, and we just let it drain. At the end, when we know that all this is drained out, when we don't see another drop fall off the end of the pipette for 5 seconds. So I just let it go. It's flowing real quick now. I just keep letting it go. And now it's dripping. And then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't see any more drips. I just touch the tip of the pipette against the side in case there's a drop outside the pipette that'll knock it off. Now I need to add 15 milliliters of water. I have a little 10 milliliter grad cylinder, so here's 10 milliliters, and then I'm going to put in 5 milliliters more. The amount of water isn't so important. It's just to kind of make a nice solution that's a little bit larger and that I'll be able to use. So I'm going to fill up the other 2 samples and then come back to you. Now it's time to fill up the buret. So I want to rinse out here the buret is here. I'm sorry, I got to keep my hands on camera. We got to rinse out the buret with water first. So I got a squirt bottle with deionized water. I'm going to sort of fill it up. And that's about 10 milliliters of water. I'm just going to drain that into a waste container. Let it fully drain out. So that should rinse out any chemicals that were left over from the last person who used this. And now I'm going to put in about 5 milliliters of sodium hydroxide. So this is sodium hydroxide solution that we're trying to standardize. There's about 5 milliliters, then drain that out. So there's water coating the inside of the burette from rinsing it out, and now I'm just trying to replace that, or sort of wash out that water with the sodium hydroxide solution. So I'll do that twice. That was the first time. And then I'm going to do it again. Let it drain all the way out. So it's fully drained. Now close it up, and I'm going to fill the burette up to between the 0 and 1 milliliter marks. So burettes count down from the top, so the very top reading is 0, and then as you go down it counts up. And that way the initial reading will be less than the final, and the difference between the two will be what you measure. Or excuse me, what you delivered to the flask through the burette. You can overfill it and drain out some excess. So there we are. Got a little too much. And I'll drain this out a little. There we are. So I need to make an initial burette reading right now. For this experiment, you'll be provided pictures of the burette, so I'm going to take a picture right now of the burette. Now I'll titrate the samples. Here's sample number, the first sample. I'm going to add 4 or 5 drops of phenolphthalein indicator. There was, I think, 6 drops. That'll be okay. And then I just want to, whoops, better bring this up a little bit. I'm going to sort of stream this in kind of fast at first. And I want to see a change from clear to pink. And I can see a little bit of pink showing up. But it's not staying around. There's a little bit more. So I'm going to go a little slower now. I'm going to wash down the inside of the container just to get any sodium hydroxide that might have splashed up onto the sides of the flask. Oops. There, one drop at a time. Whoops. There's ooh. Not quite. A couple drops at a time. Oh, there, I think I'm done. Well, maybe not. It's a really pale pink. I'm going to do one more drop. There's those two. So I might have overdone that a little bit. You can see it's sort of a nice pink color. That went from sort of not really pink to this color in 2 drops. So it's hard at the end. I'm gonna take a picture of the Buret now and do the other 2 samples, and then I'll come back to you. So in the first part, we are titrating 15 milliliter samples of a known concentration HCl solution. And that allows us to determine the concentration of the sodium hydroxide, which is in the Buret. In the second part, we want to analyze an unknown vinegar solution. So we don't know what its acidity is. But in the first part, we are able to determine the sodium hydroxide concentration. So I made up 3 samples for vinegar unknown. Again, I used the volumetric pipette to measure out 15 milliliters. Because I was going from the hydrochloric acid to the vinegar solution, I washed this out 2 times with the vinegar solution before I used it to measure out each of these samples. And then I added, so I measured 15 milliliters of vinegar into each of these, added 15 milliliters of water, and 5 drops of phenolphthalein indicator. So I took a picture of the initial Buret reading, and you'll be able to see that in the on the Canvas page. Now we're going to titrate the first of the samples. So let me go a little higher. There we are. It's going to use the flush everything, but But we got a nice sample there. Looks a little paler than the last one. So I'm going to take a picture of the final Buret reading and then go on and titrate the other 2 vinegar samples, and that'll be the data that you see on Canvas. So good luck with everything, and let your lab instructor know if you have any questions.